putting it high in the sky. 2 seconds, 1 second, and the DU Pios from down 4 goals in a top 10 matchup in one of the largest crowds in the history of Peter Barton Stadium. Pio fans are going home happy after a win over 6th ranked Cornell. Final score 17-16.
Hello, College Lacrosse fans. Welcome back to another week of College Lacrosse Gameday. Awesome show for you guys. This week we have William Perry from North Carolina, active player for the Chaos, who joins us, as well as Dan Bucaro, an alum of Georgetown, the MLL, and the PLL after an exciting Georgetown victory over Notre Dame. Huge upset. Awesome episode planned for you guys today. Thanks for joining us. Let's go.
Holden getting underneath. Maltz, great catch by Bernhardt. Score! Hello, highlight reel.
Play like a champion today. Notre Dame with its first title in men's lacrosse.
Friday, the 23rd. Preseason MAC favorite Siena roll over UMass Lowell 13-8.
Towson beat St. Joe's 15-7. This was a third win for the Tigers and a big one. The Hawks still learning to fly. They fall to 0-3.
The Devils do in the Dolphins in Durham 23-7. O'Neal had 5 goals.
And Saturday the 24th, we start in Southwest Florida, where Michigan dominates the possession battle and beats Marquette 20-12.
Canisius secures a thrilling victory over Robert Morris in overtime 9-8.
As time winded down, Delaware's last shot hit the pipe to give Penn the big victory in Philadelphia 11-10.
The Pride have been prouder. Marist beats Hofstra 12-10 at James Short Stadium.
The Utes clinched their first victory of the 2024 season in dominant fashion against the Catamounts of Vermont 22-12.
The Terps over the Tigers. Maryland control the game in College Park. They win 13-7.
Unless you're subscribed to Pioneer All Access or one of the 3,000 plus in attendance, you missed Denver edge Cornell 17-16 in a high-scoring thriller.
Air Force takes off with an overtime win at Stony Brook 12-11. Aiden Tolan tucks to triumph.
After jumping out to an 8-1 lead in the Crimson, Bucknell falls to Harvard 13-12.
The Gorillas used a 6-goal first quarter to cruise 17-6 over Merrimack, Gritty City, and Amherst.
A motivated and pissed off Rutgers squad looks good against Loyola. Scarlet Knights win 13-5.
LIU held Lindenwood scoreless for 41 minutes and beat the Lions 10-7.
Jacob Martin 15 of 16 at the X for Queens as they double up Hampton 14-7.
The Dartmouth Big Green steady the ship with a win over Holy Cross 14-8.
16 different itsy-bitsy spiders tally a point for Richmond. They beat St. John's 18-2 on Saturday.
A ferocious pack of Nittany Lions attacked the midshipmen like a young and a buffalo herd 13-3. Navy on a recent cold streak.
UMBC gets their first win of the 2024, tripling up the mount 18-6.
The Blue Jays have their way with UNC, who gripped their sticks too tight. According to Coach Bresci, the final was 13-9.
Stags versus Swagner. Fearful beats the Seahawks 14-9.
Jack Joyner helps the Drexel Dragons slay the Danes in overtime 13-12. Albany's historical record of 12-9 becomes 12-10.
After tough losses against Penn State and Yale, Villanova beats the 10-man ride and Colgate 15-9.
High Point had higher points than Cleveland State. They won 18-11.
A huge 13-10 win for Quinnipiac over Bryant gets them to 3-0 to start 2024. Mason Oak, 19 saves.
Mike Daly's late game comeback isn't enough to hold off the Friars. Providence 12, Brown 11 in overtime.
Lafayette shuts us up and leaves all our families starving, bringing it to Binghamton 19-12. Knief and Mathis each net 6 goals for the Leopards.
Army did deliver that lacrosse lesson we talked about to Mercer. They took it home 15-7.
VMI love when the Keydets win lacrosse games. They declare victory over St. Bonnie's 17-9.
NJIT, a.k.a. No Joke, I think they should be ranked. They're 5-0. They beat Manhattan in overtime 11-10.
Sunday, the 25th, we start in South Bend. Aiden Carroll is the hero. The Hoyas execute Coach Warne's game plan flawlessly and take down number 1 Notre Dame 11-10 in overtime.
The Cavaliers continue to prove why they are the gold standard in college lacrosse. Ohio State's slow first half led them to fall 14-8.
Second win in a row for Sacred Heart. They hand Lemoyne their first Division I loss, 15-7.
Monday, the 26th, Lehigh dominates Dartmouth at Trinity College. They won 11-6 in this tilt.
Tuesday, the 27th, on their home turf, Monmouth doubles up Wagner 12-6.
The Hampton Pirates fell to Bellarmine 23-7.
In the oldest rivalry in the sport, Cornell 23, Hobart 7.
Crab cakes and overtime. Lacrosse is what Baltimore does. Remy Reynolds has the long pole goal to win it 11-10.
Too bad it cost $25 to watch the Crimson play lacrosse because they are good. Harvard 23, Merrimack 8.
Jacksonville kept it close with Michigan. They fell to the Wolverines 13-10.
Wednesday, the 28th, good win for Siena as they creep towards MAC competition, 11-9 over Lemoyne.
St. John's at Queens. Both teams got gabagool in Queens after the gabagoals fell the way of St. John's. That's their first win since March of 2022.
Army at Syracuse. We patiently wait for the result of this game. We watch as we record one of our week 3 games of the week. I'm sure we'll talk about it right now. What a week of college lacrosse. We just finished watching an epic overtime thriller. Army edging Syracuse 14-13 in the JMA Dome. Some great lacrosse from these two programs.
Yeah, they definitely edged them in the Dome.
There's just good games there, man. Two of their big games might have been losses, but they were both in overtime and both electric.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, Syracuse can play with anybody, and I think Army is now going to be a top 3 or top 4 team. They were number 5 coming into this game. Arguably they're a better team than Maryland, but it says a lot about Syracuse being able to hang with that Army team. I mean, it is debatable. Like Maryland's a very good team, but so is Army, and I think they're different. But the fact that Syracuse can play both those teams to a 1-goal game, being as young as they are, says a lot about how good they are and how good they will be.
it's a fun mixture of discipline and skill when you watch Army play. Typically, I think you said it in an earlier episode, Hayden, you're not used to seeing those guys with such great hands and such great skills inside. You see it every single time they play. And from Syracuse, too, I mean, obviously there's skill all over the field, as there always is. They're starting to find their identity, and it's up and down. I think their defense is solid. They have guys who are all confident with the ball. They're looking to push transition. They're not just, stopping the game and saying, hey, we're Syracuse, we'll play a 6-on-6. They're trying to push. They're having fun, trying to score goals however they can, but they're beginning to form an identity.
Yeah, they have a lot of one-handed players on offense too, which goes to your point about how you don't really see this out of a typical Army team. Like Reese Burek is a one-handed player on that lefty wing, and then that game-winning goal by Jackson Eicher was just a classic Canadian face dodge to a rollback, right? Like something you don't see from most Army teams, and it was just such a great move and something that just speaks so highly to their skill and what they're capable of. It is pretty amazing what they can do.
Army and Hopkins are pretty similar this year. Like just the style of play they have. It's just good lacrosse at every aspect of the game, from face off to goaltending to defense to offense. The whole transition. They're just a good team. And for Cuse, I mean, it's a tough loss at home, but if they continue to improve, they're going to be a really tough team to beat later in the year. And I'll tell you what, ACC play is going to be so much fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one other thing to look at in the Syracuse game was Mason Kahn, the face-off guy for Cuse, went 43%. And this year he's been facing off at a clip of, I don't know what the exact stat is, but it seems like every game he's going 70, 80%. So them not having the ball as much as they're used to definitely probably played a factor in this. And then, overall turnovers and missed ground balls by Syracuse and some missed opportunities, especially in overtime, kind of, contributed to this loss. But, in that overtime section, Syracuse had 2 or 3 good looks, including that wide open net to score. And it's making those plays, it's executing on those, and that those 1 or 2 plays will win you that game.
It'll haunt them for sure. And Mason Kahn, 69% on the year. And that goal, the overtime winner by Eicher, he draws a slide, moves it again, another move, great goal, awesome finish, great lacrosse in the Dome, which we're excited to see once again. Some other great games this weekend. Georgetown, Notre Dame. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Mike, not to call you out here, but we're accountable people. It's what we do.
Extremely accountable.
I think you said something along the lines of, I highly doubt it, when it was, can Georgetown prove it against Notre Dame?
Not only did I say it, I put my money where my mouth was, and I took Notre Dame -9 over them. So
-9 and they won.
I know. They definitely
also did that,
they
too.
didn't just surprise
Guilty.
us. They surprised everybody, and it's a testament to Georgetown, man. They went to South Bend and beat a very, very good Notre Dame team, and damn, they're playing some good lacrosse, man. You look at where they've come from
After the Loyola
after the
game?
Loyola game,
Yeah.
where they looked terrible, and you're like, this is a young team. Are they going to figure it out? And only a couple weeks in, and they're figuring it out. I think we could say that.
Yeah, completely.
This is a perfect example of what happens when an underdog, but like a talented team like Georgetown shows up and the favorite doesn't. Like, Notre Dame, it wasn't typical Notre Dame lacrosse. Pat Kavanaugh had 3 points. Chris Kavanaugh had a goal. Dobson had 2 points. Dobson and Chris Kavanaugh each had 4 and 3 turnovers. Entenmann only saved the ball at 42%. Right, not what Notre Dame usually relies on. Like
Entenmann didn't clear the ball well either.
he didn't. No, and it's like it's those guys, their guys, not showing up and executing to their fullest capabilities. Whereas Georgetown, on the other hand, played a really clean game, cleared the ball well, goalie played well, all their guys showed up.
The game plan was executed. I thought Coach Warne, it was clear what he was trying to do. Their turnovers were not real turnovers. It seemed like they were holding the ball the entire shot clock, which they're still getting great looks, but their possessions weren't ending with 50 seconds left, giving the Kavanaughs the ball back. They're holding the ball as long as they can.
Every turnover had a purpose.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
I will say, too, is Georgetown close defender, Ty Banks, freshman on Pat Kavanaugh, did phenomenal. He's going to be a budding star, and I saw a lot of people write stuff about him, and I tend to stay away from that, but he's a stud, man. He looked really good, and that final goal with not final goal, but the goal from Pat Kavanaugh where he ties it, dodges down the alley,
You couldn't
quick
have played
pivot.
It better.
Couldn't have played it better. Like that's
Yeah.
just Pat Kavanaugh making Pat Kavanaugh plays, but this kid's going to be a stud. Just wait for some big matchups later in the year with Ty Banks.
You tip the cap. I forget in the call. I think it was Quint. That's a equivalent of a fadeaway 3 in the NBA. You tip the cap. It's a great shot there from the Kavanaugh. Awesome game. We have Dan Bucaro, who's going to come in a little bit here to talk more about the Hoyas after a hot start and a huge win in South Bend. Some other games from the weekend. Some great contests. We missed some action for sure, unless you have, of course, you have Denver Pioneers All Access, right?
Why wouldn't I?
I mean, who doesn't? Right?
Anybody on the East Coast should have Denver, all access. Right?
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Brand new
Unbelievable
field,
game.
brand new field, unbelievable game. 3,000 plus in attendance.
I would have loved to watch.
Loved. I just wouldn't get another subscription for something that I'm going to use 3 times.
If you
3
wanted
times.
to watch every game this past weekend, how many subscriptions would you need? 5?
It's a great question. If you were to quantify,
It's a good.
It would
you put
probably
a dollar amount on it.
probably be like $60
Yeah. Minimum.
minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, how much is a flight to Denver? Like 200?
It might have been
Seriously.
worth it. A historic crowd at their new turf, and we talked about last
Beautiful
week
stadium.
how we loved it. But I mean, high scoring game. Michael Lampert back in the mix for the Pios. I don't want to get my stats wrong here. 1 goal, a handful of assists, but you watch the highlights because that's all I saw, and you see him drawing slides and moving it one more. Getting great looks consistently. The offense is just clicking. Obviously, there's concerns with defense letting up 16, but Cornell's good. They played well. They scored a lot of goals, but I wish I could have watched it.
Yeah, I would have loved to watch it. I did see a post-game presser from Coach Brown, and he said, in this game today that we couldn't watch, all their guys showed up. right? Like J.J. Silstrop had 6 points, Lampert had 5, Noah Manning had 6. Like he was saying, this is what happens when you have a great environment and your best guys show up, right? You win a game like this and you beat a team like Cornell in an unbelievable game. And, hats off to Cornell too, because they're a great team. I think it was only their second game of the year. So, still knocking that rust off, and really tough environment to go into in your second game at Denver on a new field with, them having all the momentum in the world. But, Cornell's a great team. They're gonna keep winning games. This is one they definitely wish they could have back.
Yeah, you start to feel like we're gonna see 2 Big East teams in the NCAA tournament this year. Just a gut feeling. Some other events over the past week. Tuesday, awesome finish in Towson Loyola. The long pull goal, the end of overtime. Awesome finish. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I remember they were saying during the game, I heard the announcers were like, this isn't like the rivalry it used to be. Like these players and these teams still feel, but it's like not what it used to be back in the day, to the magnitude, I guess. But like, I think it went to OT last year too. I heard them saying that too. So like they played tight, and that was a great game. Yeah. At a great field, Loyola shows up. They probably have one of the best fans and stadiums in the country. So.
Right. I'm sure there's a lot of Towson fans there too, being that close. Some other good results. Lafayette beats Binghamton by 7. That's shocking. My family's hungry.
Yeah, for those of you who listen to our picks of the week, we apologize for that one. We thought Binghamton was experienced. Lafayette's a pretty good Patriot League team, and they showed up to play. So
Patriot League's gonna be fun.
Yep.
We apologize for that.
Yep. Quinnipiac, huge win against Bryant, who we were pretty high on before last week. Some other events. Hopkins looks solid against UNC. They win that game by 4.
Good squad.
I think they were expected to win, but they really looked like they were in control from start to finish. They're, I think, higher and higher of this Hopkins group every single week. And Garrett Degnon.
Piss missile.
Yep. Penn State.
Liquid smoke.
Penn State dominates Navy. Some other good results here. And St. John's gets its first win.
Yes.
In almost 2 years. Not quite 2 years, but almost 2 years.
Overdue for the Turries.
24
Overdue.
games.
Turry brothers.
Hey, shout out. Shout out Turries.
Seriously.
St. John's.
Great guys, great coaches. They love competing. Fired up for that. Plenty to talk about in this episode. We're going to go through this week's games. First, we have an interview with Dan Bucaro. Dan played at Georgetown, where he helped return the program to the top of the Big East. He also played in the MLL, where he was the Rookie of the Year, then played a couple seasons with the Atlas. He has a list of accolades, truly, but he's a consummate professional, a nail gun, and we're pumped to have him on the show.
Give him the rock. That boy can play. Dan Bucaro was one of Kevin Warren's first blue chip recruits. Everyone in the country wanted this kid out of Warren Melville High School out on Long Island in New York. Why? His playmaking ability. Tore his knee a season ago, came back in the spring in better shape than anyone. He's got the quickness, he's got the awareness, and his ability to sling it.
Dan, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. We're fired up to have you on, especially after a big win last week from the Hoyas. I guess gut reaction to that game. What'd you see? You must have loved it.
Yeah, so I was driving back. I was on vacation with some of my friends, so we were watching in the car, and then we watched at a bar, and it was pretty awesome.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know if Georgetown's ever had beating a team when they're the first seed overall. So we were the only people watching the game in the bar, but it was pretty awesome. So.
We feel you. That happens to us quite constantly.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing it was on ESPNU, not on ESPN Plus. You didn't have to ask for subscriptions or whatever, but that was
exactly.
That was an awesome game.
Yeah.
But want to catch up with you a little bit. Obviously a couple years professionally playing in the PLL, originally drafted in the MLL, where you win Rookie of the Year. But would just love to hear a little bit about your experience, how it was. Obviously, a lot of success professionally. Just want to hear what that experience was like. I know you've moved on since then, but just fill us in.
Yeah, of course. So I guess my first year that I was supposed to play with the Outlaws in the MLL, I actually tore my meniscus my senior year in college. So I opted not to play and get surgery. I was like, I don't know, it was just a lot. 4 years in college and playing my whole life. I just kind of wanted to break. And like it's just kind of like a perfect opportunity for me to just get surgery. So like worked out. I like kind of debated if I wanted to play, and then I realized I was like, you know what, like let's give it a shot. You know, I always said I wanted to do something professionally, so played lacrosse the next year, and that was the bubble. So it was pretty weird. We were all in Annapolis, and it was fun. Those guys are great. I made some really good friends that I still talk to this day. So yeah, the Outlaws, like they were a great organization, great people. You know, they really cared. And yeah, we did pretty well for like the first year I was there. We lost in the finals, but you know, I think if we had maybe another year together, I think we could have done it. But no, it was awesome.
Yeah, this might be tough to do. I want to ask if you could compare your experience with the MLL and the PLL. It just might be difficult with the fact that you were playing in a bubble that 1 year, but any differences you recognize or notice right away?
The field size for sure. I'm definitely more of a speed guy. So like I use that to my advantage in the MLL because it was a bigger field. So I had more room to run. And I feel like in the PLL, it's very tight and very like skill game, where, you know, I have some skill, but I wasn't the most skilled guy out there. And that was probably the biggest difference for me. It was like adjusting to that, and it's just like super tight. And I think obviously it was fine, but maybe I noticed a little bit of a difference. But yeah, that would be like the most different about MLL and PLL. And it's just so fast, the PLL. I mean, everyone's amazing. It had all the top talent. So, you know, they did a really good job, and so did the MLL. You know, it was both just great organizations, and you know, I was lucky to play in both.
Yep. Yeah. And Brett here, you know, so you had a great career there. You enjoyed your time doing that, but you know, you had to ultimately make the decision to step away. What kind of led you to that decision, and you know, what did that burden on you?
Yeah, and you know, I was fortunate too to be drafted to the Atlas. Like I said, with the MLL, I made some really good friends that I still talk to, and same with the PLL. You know, like I'll still text Steed a lot and see Chris Gray out a bunch. So, you know, I try to keep in contact with those guys as well. But, you know, I think it came to a point for me where it was hard for me to keep in shape, and focusing on my job and then playing lacrosse on the weekend. There's just like a lot of traveling for me. And, you know, I felt like I didn't really have the love anymore for the game that I used to have. So I think that was the biggest reason is, you know, I think it was just time for me to step away. I wanted to focus on my job and, you know, give myself a break from lacrosse for a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, you see guys that are still working and playing until they're like 37, 38. And, you know, those guys, they never lose that love. So I think at some point, you know, everyone has to step away, and this was just my time.
Yeah, no, totally. And what are you doing currently outside of lacrosse?
So I work in insurance.
Okay.
I'm an underwriter and manager at Chubb Insurance. So I've been doing that since I graduated out of college. And yeah, it's been good. Just definitely a lot of work. So I'd have to like fly in on Sundays or fly home on Sundays, work Sundays, and it was just like trying to figure everything out was a lot. So time to call it quits.
There's a rumor going around that you're a better underwriter than a lacrosse player. What do you have to say about that?
Did Connor Cunningham tell you that?
I'm not disclosing my source.
No. Let's say no on that one.
Just to bring it back to the Georgetown days, I guess. Just want a little more insight here. Just talking about your experience with the program. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Your freshman year, though, in 2016, you guys are 2-12. Sophomore year, 4-10, and then obviously your senior year, you guys really turn it around. You win the Big East. You go to the NCAA tournament. What fueled this return for the Hoyas? Because now I think they're considered a blue blood and a powerhouse. So I guess what happened when you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect that going into my freshman year and even sophomore year. I thought we had one of the most talented teams while I was at Georgetown my freshman and sophomore year. We had some really good players. I don't think we just didn't put it together. We didn't have like that, I guess, push or drive to like win the game and win those battles when it was those crucial times in the game. So we lost a lot of games, I feel like by 1 or 2, and we were in a lot of those games. So I remember like we played UVA after my freshman year, and I think we lost by 1. So it was like, I could be wrong, but I think it was 1. But it was kind of crazy. But I think after sophomore year, we had like a team meeting with the incoming seniors, and they basically just pull us in the locker room, and they're like, I mean, we're sick and tired of losing. Like, none of us came here to do that. We came to like change a program, and we've done the opposite. We've brought it back down to like where it used to be. And they were like, they made all these groups, and we were checking in on each other, making sure we're like working out and doing everything we need to do in the summer to make sure we come back in shape. And, it was great. I mean, we really like pushed each other and had that drive to like do something special, and it worked out. I mean, that whole season was so competitive. There were so many fights and practices, and like everyone was just like getting after each other. So it was a really good time, and I think it helped set a culture there, and it seems to be working. So hopefully it stays that way.
Absolutely. If you've heard any successful team stories, it's always very competitive practice, typically with fights. And our coach's rule is, on the field, let him go. Off the field, no, don't let him do that. But, just lastly, I guess Georgetown, they go to High Point this weekend. Could be a trap game. But I guess just looking at the rest of their regular season, obviously they need to compete in the Big East. What do you think the biggest thing for them will be to once again be a Big East champion? Because Denver is for real, as we all know at this point. So what do you think?
Yeah, and I think something that I learned when playing, I think it's still, characteristic that the team like lives by, but you just got to focus on yourself and your team, and you can't really like think about the other teams, because it's at the end of the day, like if you don't do your job, you're going to lose the game. So that's something we live by, and that's like what we do at practice and literally everything we do at Georgetown, like the cleaning the locker room, and our coaches really pushed us and to make sure that we did everything right, so that those crucial points in games, like we do it right and get the job done. So, I think hopefully they keep doing that. It seems like the last 2 games have been playing really well, and you can't get too high because the season's so long. So they gotta like just keep having that drive and focus, and hopefully, they get the job done throughout the year and maybe make a Final Four. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely. I had them in my Final Four bracket last year. Didn't work out, but
it was a tough one.
They ran
I feel like the last 2 years, like we expected it, and but no, they got way further than us. So it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, you're humble, but you're obviously a huge piece in getting them back to where they are today. And Dan, we really appreciate you coming on, helping us out. We're fired up for some more lacrosse. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks to Dan Bucaro. Thrilled to have him on the show. Just one mistake I made in the interview. I said that Georgetown plays High Point this weekend. They play them Tuesday. They have Brown this weekend. We'll provide some analysis on that game. But starting Friday, March 1st, great day. Cleveland State at Canisius. Canisius is 1.5 goal favorites. Canisius 2-2 and a big OT win over Robert Morris last weekend. A couple more games Friday we're going to cover later, but Penn goes to Duke. They play at 6 p.m. Then Princeton at UNC. All those teams have double headers over the weekend. We're thrilled to cover. Will Perry joining us later to provide some Tar Heel updates there. Moving on to Saturday, March 2nd. Dartmouth, 3.5 goal favorites at Siena. This one's at 11 a.m. Dartmouth 1-2, Siena 2-2. Had a big win over UMass Lowell as well as Lemoyne. And then Saturday at 11 a.m. as well, Villanova 1.5 goal favorites at Lehigh.
Yep, Villanova is 1-2. All three of their games have been against top 20 teams in Penn State, Yale, and Colgate. Lehigh is 2-2 with wins against Fairfield and Dartmouth last week. Lehigh also played Cornell pretty close last week. It was Cornell's first game, but still a good performance by Lehigh. I said it week one after Lehigh's first loss to Rutgers. Lehigh is a very talented one-on-one team with guys like Scott Cole, Andrew Kelly, Dakota Ehrman, but playing one-on-one isn't a reliable fallback solution when guys aren't beating their guys. Lehigh ranks 71 out of 73 in Division I teams in assists per game. They average 2.75
stat right there.
Assists per game.
Yeah.
Put that in perspective, they have 10 assists through 4 games. The only teams with less than that are Manhattan and Hampton. So, Lehigh's got to figure out how to share the ball a little bit more on offense and not rely so much on their one-on-one game. I like Villanova money line here. I think it could be a close game, but Villanova's battle-tested, and they need this one for confidence.
Mount St. Mary's at Monmouth. Monmouth 3.5 goal favorites. This one's at 11:30. Monmouth 2-2. Mount St. Mary's 0-4. The measuring stick here is NJIT. Monmouth lost to NJIT in overtime. Mount St. Mary's lost by 4. Should be a good game. Then we have Marist. They go to Bellarmine. Bellarmine 1.5 goal favorites. Marist 3-1, coming off a win over Hofstra. Bellarmine 1-3. Tough loss to Canisius. Georgetown's game that we mentioned earlier. Brown is at Georgetown, where the Hoyas are 6.5 goal favorites.
Yeah, Brown needs to start winning games and gaining some momentum before they get in Ivy League play. It is definitely safe to say that they're out of the at-large picture.
Yep.
Unfortunately, though, they face a red-hot Georgetown team who is coming off a signature win over Notre Dame in South Bend in overtime. Brown is coming off a 12-11 loss to Providence, and Georgetown really looks like they are figuring out who they are and how to play some good lacrosse. Plus, if Kevin Warne wears that Georgetown jacket again, there is no stopping them.
No stopping them. All the Jordans, too. I'm excited to pay attention to that throughout the course of the year. That one's at 12 noon, and so is this one, and a few more. Bryant, 6 goal favorites at Manhattan. Bryant, a disappointing loss to Quinnipiac over the weekend. They'll look to bounce back. Holy Cross is at Bucknell. Holy Cross 2-2, coming off a 14-8 loss to Dartmouth. Bucknell 1-3. Tough game against Harvard recently for them. Then Loyola 1.5 goal favorites at Colgate.
This is a big Patriot League matchup, and I don't know the last time you could say that when these two teams played. Loyola is coming off a very important overtime win against Towson earlier this week, and Colgate is now 3-3 after losing the last 2 to Yale and Villanova. So Loyola is picking up some steam, and Colgate, is falling back a little bit off that start that they had to begin the season. Couple stats here. Loyola is the worst man-up team in the country at 11%. Right, they're 1 for 11 in their last 3 games. Colgate's not far behind at 25%, and both teams, are among the worst face-off teams in the country. Both teams facing off at about 36%, which kind of says a lot about some of these teams' losses. Right, if they face off better, if they score a couple goals on man up here and there, right, they might have a little bit better record. But nonetheless, this is a huge game for momentum. I think it's going to come down to who wins the battle at the X, who clears the ball better, and who shoots at a higher percentage. I like Loyola. They've been picking up momentum, and Colgate's been dropping off a little bit, like I said.
Yeah, specialty units are starting to become a big deal. You feel in the first few weeks, it's, you have one good game, all of a sudden you're the best man-up team in the country. Or, you have one good game or bad game, you're the worst in the country. But stats are starting to show some truth in face-offs, in man-up, man-down, all over the place. Michigan, 1.5 goal favorites at Delaware.
Yeah, the line says it. This feels like an even matchup that can really, truly go either way. Michigan is 4-1, winning 3 in a row over Hobart, Marquette, and Jacksonville, who they just defeated in Jacksonville yesterday. For a game that through the first half, it felt like could be an upset. It is important to note that Michigan played on Tuesday in Jacksonville and travels to Delaware on Saturday. A lot of travel for the Maize and Blue, something to keep an eye on. They are led by senior attackman Michael Boehm, has 22 points on the year. Delaware is 2-1, coming off a tight contest, which saw them fall to UPenn 11-10, led by senior attackman Mike Robinson, who has 15 points on the year.
Ohio State goes to Cornell, where the Big Red are 3-goal favorites.
It's a big-time matchup. This is potential game of the week material if we didn't have the games of the week that we do. Cornell is 2-1, coming off that tough loss to Denver, but they have good wins against Lehigh and Hobart last week. Cornell's starting to get their rhythm. I think those first couple games were kind of a sluggish start. We all know who they have in CJ Kirst and other guys like Willem Firth and Long down at attack. Once they get going, I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. Ohio State is 4-1. They lost last week to Virginia. It is Virginia, so you can't take too much out of that. But this would be a huge win for their at-large chances. Last week I said that maybe mistakenly that it didn't seem like Ohio State wanted to win, but how they came out against Virginia and if they can beat this Cornell team, I think it would change my mind a lot.
Definitely. I mean, it's a statement win if they do. A few games to rattle off here. All at noon Saturday. Detroit Mercy goes to VMI. VMI is 3-2. They're having a good year. They're 4-goal favorites in this contest. Sacred Heart goes to Drexel. Drexel 4.5-goal favorites. They're coming off a 13-12 win over Albany. St. John's at Jacksonville. Jacksonville 7.5-goal favorites. NGIT 5-goal favorites at Wagner. Look to continue their win streak.
Yeah, I mean we've been hearing a lot about NGIT. They're 5-0. It's a great story in lacrosse. It's a hot topic. Wagner's struggled. I think that NGIT will probably improve to 6-0 this week.
Yes.
And I think we all need to go to their pro shop and get a T-shirt before they sell out.
Absolutely.
Jersey's team, baby. Absolutely.
Go Tech. Another game on Saturday, Yale at Penn State. It's one of our games of the week. We'll hold off for discussion there. UMBC at Towson. UMBC just had a huge win. Towson's 4.5-goal favorites in this one.
Yeah, the Battle of Baltimore County. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Towson's 3-2, coming off a tough OT loss to Loyola. But I think we can all agree that Towson has been a bit of a surprise this year.
This could be a game of the week. Borderline.
It could be
a really good game.
It's a very good game, and
it's a big line.
You watch Towson play. They're small. They're not. I guess as physically imposing as some of these other teams that we watch, but they're extremely well coached, and their offense is they move the ball extremely well. They take high percentage shots. I like this Towson team a lot, and I think they could have beat that Loyola team. And then if they beat Loyola, right, they're 4-1.
Yeah,
it's a whole different conversation. Maybe they're a top 20 team after beating Loyola.
Completely. Yeah.
And then, UMBC's another good team, really strong defense, as does Towson. Mike Dowdy, a senior attackman for UMBC, is averaging 5.5 points per game. So he's a guy that's, kind of leading the way for that UMBC team. It's going to be a really gritty game. Despite the fact that they both have top 10 defenses in the country right now, I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game here.
The Patriot League play starts this week. Navy at BU. This one's at 1 o'clock in Boston. I will be there. Can't wait.
Yes. Gotta love conference play. So happy it's already starting. Navy needs a bounce back win badly. And it could make it interesting at Nickerson Field. Could be a dogfight, especially Navy's defense against BU's offense, and more specifically, Jackson Bonnet's captain of captains on Vince DeAlto. Navy is 2-2 and just lost 13-3 against Penn State. It seems as though their offense has been figured out, as they have not scored more than 5 goals in their last 2 contests. BU is 3-1, coming off a 16-10 win over Ivy League opponent Brown.
Providence at Fairfield. Fairfield 1.5-goal favorites. Interesting. Fairfield 1-3. Providence 2-2. The Friars just beat Brown. Interesting game there. Hampton at Stony Brook. Stony Brook 18-goal favorites. Let's go Pirates in that game. Harvard at Vermont.
Yeah, I think based on the way Harvard's been handling themselves, they've been playing really well. I think they should handle Vermont pretty easily. Harvard's still unbeaten. They have yet to play anybody in the Ivy. Jerry Byrne has not had a test against his peers. They scored their season high 23 goals. I probably foresee that happening again. I don't know the spread. It's at Harvard, so I don't think we have that. But I think they should take the Catamounts.
Hofstra at Rutgers. Rutgers 8.5 goal favorites.
Rutgers is as hot as an iron right now. They just beat a really good Loyola team 13-5, and it wasn't that close. Rutgers completely dominated that game. It seems like they figured something out on the offensive side of the ball with Ross Scott, Kulas, Knobloch, and Amon. They've been moving the ball well. They've been sharing the ball. They're all great individual players, but now that they're kind of playing as a unit, they're a lot more explosive and get a lot better looks. Carden Stoller, who's a freshman goalie for them, has been outstanding. He went 75% last week against Loyola. So if he can keep that number up, Rutgers is going to be a very difficult team to beat. Hofstra is 3-2. Haven't really beaten anybody noteworthy. Lost to Navy and Marist last week, 12-10. Marist is a good team, and that's a respectable loss. I think if Hofstra is going to have a chance at this game, their goalie, Sean Henderson, is going to have to play above what he's been doing this year, and their face-off guy is going to have to keep facing off at that, 65-70% clip that he has been this whole year. I really have a hard time seeing Hofstra win this game, but I think Rutgers is out to prove that they've arrived this year.
Hopkins at Virginia. We'll save that for our games of the week. Utah at Marquette, Midwest matchup. Marquette 1.5 goal favorites.
Yeah, although Utah is 1-3. Their 3 losses are to Ohio State, Syracuse, and Denver. They are coming off a 22-12 win over a decent Vermont team to gain back some momentum heading into their tilt against Marquette. Marquette is 3-2. Both of their losses, Michigan, Notre Dame. So 2 good teams who have played some really good teams and just haven't come out on top. This could be a shootout, and we'll see if Marquette's Jake Stegman or Utah's Ryan Steins can lead their offense to victory. I think a possible feed the family pick could be the over on this game. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I'm seeing some points coming.
Yep. Quinnipiac at Merrimack. Interesting one here. Quinnipiac's 3-0, Merrimack 2-2 after a tough loss to UMass. They kind of beat up on the Warriors. UAlbany at UMass.
Yeah, the Battle of U's. This was a rock fight last year. UMass beat Albany 10-6. This year, I think the offense for UMass is a bit better, a bit more developed. I think Albany has just struggled this year with their productivity and goal scoring. I'm going to take the Gorillas over the Danes in this one all day.
Robert Morris at Hobart. Hobart 1.5 goal favorites. Hobart coming off a tough loss against Cornell. Robert Morris coming off a tough loss in overtime against Canisius. Should be an interesting game. UMass Lowell goes to LIU. UMass Lowell 0-3. LIU 2-1. Just won 10-7 over Lindenwood. High Point goes to Syracuse. They play Saturday at 5.
Yeah, this year, we've seen Syracuse play 2 types of games, either against top 5 teams or, against some of these mid-major teams. What we've seen is Syracuse just outpaces these mid-major teams, and I think High Point is a little bit above the teams like Utah and Vermont. But I have a really hard time seeing High Point win this game. High Point is 4-1 this year, and this is their first real test since Duke, so it might be interesting to see what that measuring stick looks like. Both teams are top 10 in scoring offense. High Point's averaging 15 goals a game. Syracuse is averaging around 17. I just don't see a way High Point wins this, but I do think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, so I like the over in this if you're looking to bet on it.
Lemoyne goes to Denver. This one's at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Denver 11-goal favorites. Lemoyne's first real taste of a blue blood should be very interesting. And then Binghamton at Richmond. Richmond 10-goal favorites in this one.
The Bearcats versus the Spiders. I think Richmond is going to win this game by a good amount. The line is 10. My original thought was maybe taking Binghamton against the spread here, but Binghamton's coming off a 19-12 loss to Lafayette. They're 1-2. Richmond is by far the best team that they have played yet this year. If Lafayette put 19 on them, Richmond can easily put 20 plus on them the way they've been playing. Expect Dalton Young and Lance Madonna leading the high-powered Spiders offense over the Bearcats, dropping them to 1-3.
And then we move on. That game's at 12, by the way. It's weird that I said it after a 9 p.m. game. Apologize there. Sunday, March 2nd. No, this is March 3rd. Sunday, March 3rd. Air Force at St. Joe's. St. Joe's 2-goal favorites. This one's at noon on Sunday. The Hawks desperately need a win. They're 0-3 right now. It's a similar game for Air Force last week. They played Stony Brook. Should be interesting. Princeton at Duke, Sunday, 12 noon.
Yeah, really excited for this game. This could definitely be game of the week material. Princeton is very good. Duke's been playing like the best team in the country. I think people could argue that they are. Princeton coming off of a 13-7 loss to the Terrapins. Duke is pretty comparable to Maryland. I think they score more goals and they're just physically bigger, more athletic. I think we know who we're talking about when we say that. Princeton has some firepower, some skill. They got Mackesy, Burns, Kabiri, the freshman, and Cameron. They could really come out and surprise Duke. I think it will take everything they have. Everyone has to play well. I think they need another big performance from Michael Gianfrancaro and net. He is third in the country in save percentage. Duke comes out slow, lackadaisical. The freshman Patrick Jamison, if he isn't seeing the ball very well, the Tigers could show up and upset. I think it should be a great goalie battle going off of that. Jamison, Gianfrancaro, number 2 and 3, respectively, in save percentage. Really excited to see this game, and great color clash as well.
Absolutely. Another noon game Sunday. Maryland goes to Notre Dame. I hear it's free admission for this game. A lot different from what's happening in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
They're growing the game.
Who do you think you are, Jerry?
He came from Notre Dame. Wouldn't you think he'd have, let's grow the game.
Isn't he cut from that cloth?
Grow the game,
Maybe.
Jerry.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm completely serious about this.
Arlotta Stadium.
I think the Ivy's
Free
changed
admission.
him. I think the Ivy's changed him. I think it's made him too white collar. It's taken away his roots.
Interesting.
Sad.
It's a good take, but excited for that one. We'll talk about it in depth in a second when we get to our games of the week. Army Sunday at Lafayette. They start Patriot League play.
Okay, I'd like to talk about Lafayette here because Lafayette this year is actually a pretty solid Patriot League team. There's very few teams who rank in the top 20 in scoring offense and defense in the country, and Lafayette is one of them. They're number 20 in scoring offense, averaging 14 goals a game, and they're number 12 in scoring defense, only allowing 9 goals a game. Granted, they haven't played anybody great, but they did beat a good Drexel team last week and Binghamton before that. Again, apologize on that Binghamton pick. That was ill-advised and an uneducated advice.
We forgive you.
Thanks for taking ownership there. Thanks.
You're welcome. But Pat Myers, he's a brother of Nick Myers, which I did not know, is the head coach of Lafayette. So, obviously comes from a lacrosse family, has deep roots in the game, and he's been building a culture there. So Lafayette's a good team this year, but they're playing Army, and Joe Alberici and the Cadets are marching into Easton, Pennsylvania, and we just saw what they did to Syracuse, winning a game like that. This is not going to be a fair matchup for Lafayette.
We'll talk about both these teams in a second here in a little more depth. But Penn at UNC Sunday in the final game of their weekend doubleheader.
Yeah, this is a great game. UNC is not the ACC powerhouse that they have been in recent memory. And UPenn is a solid Ivy League team. They're in the upper echelon of the Ivy with the likes of Cornell, Yale, Princeton. UPenn just beat a good Delaware Blue Hen squad, 11-10. UNC is 2-1 after playing.
Is it UPenn or Penn?
It's Penn.
UPenn.
All right, good. Just wanted to make sure.
And they lost.
Doug Fry was
UNC
Mike,
lost their
not Dan.
Their first true test against a really good Hopkins squad, but as you mentioned earlier, Dan, Hopkins really, controlled that game, which we're not used to seeing with UNC. There is one big edge in this game, though, that I think is worth mentioning. UPenn is traveling to Durham, North Carolina on Friday to play number 1 Duke prior to this game.
Yeah, so I wonder, we could have asked someone, I wonder if they're going down, probably going on Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday, stay the night, play Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun trip.
It's a fun trip. Practice Saturday.
Yep. That'd be great lacrosse
Sunday.
there. I'm going to sprint through these games that we have on Tuesday so we can get to our games of the week as well as hear from Will Perry. Tuesday, Detroit Mercy at Rutgers, Binghamton at Mount St. Mary's, Villanova at Drexel, Georgetown at High Point, Merrimack at Providence, Stony Brook at Dartmouth, Robert Morris at Virginia. Then Wednesday we have Fairfield at Bryant. This game could be on Thursday, both times listed in the Inside Lacrosse calendar. But before we go to our games of the week, we're going to talk about Division III lacrosse. Hayden Fry has us covered for the rundown.
Alrighty, quick Division III rundown. Going over last week's games of the week. Union beat Babson 14-13 in a thriller. Two top 20 teams. Skidmore edged Bates 11-10 at Skidmore. Lynchburg had a big win over Cabrini 18-5, and Salisbury beat Gettysburg in the game of the week 14-8. So obviously some good games last week. I'm leaving a few out, but those were the ones we touched on last week. Looking ahead to this week, a couple more great games. NESCAC play gets going, and some of these Liberty League teams and Southern teams start to play some real competition. So games to watch this week are Bates at Hamilton, Lynchburg at Salisbury, RPI at Muhlenberg, Amherst at Middlebury, which will be a top 10 matchup. Will really, shape up the NESCAC. RIT at York, which is a top 10 matchup. Two great teams going at it. Union will go to Springfield, and Denison will play at Washington and Lee. So, obviously a bigger slate. There's more games, more NESCAC games that are going to be great games to watch and going to start to, shape, what these leagues look like come May. One thing I want to talk about real quick is the top 20 in the rankings. I think going forward, I'll, touch on the rankings and see where, teams have shifted after the wins or losses or whatnot. But after this week, a couple notable movements in the top 20. SLU moved up 2 spots to number 15. Babson, after their 1-goal loss to Union, moved up to 19. And Lynchburg was the biggest riser, moving up to 11 after beating Cabrini by 13. Right now, as it stands, there's 4 Liberty League teams in the top 20, and there's 4 or 5 NESCAC teams in the top 20, depending on what polls you're looking at. But there's always a conversation about what is the top conference in Division III. Is it Liberty League, NESCAC? Some make the argument for the Centennial or the ODAC, but we'll keep an eye on that this year. I'm obviously a little bit biased, and
Sure.
I believe that the Liberty League is the top dog in Division III.
I'd agree with you.
NESCAC, obviously extremely respectable, but, we saw our first NESCAC Liberty League matchup. Skidmore beat Bates by 1. Shout out to Bates. It's a great program up there. They're going to be special this year.
The brackets.
Yeah, the brackets. So, we're going to keep an eye on that. But, great week for Division III. Another great week coming up. So, looking forward to keeping this section alive.
Our next guest is William Perry. We're pumped to have him on. Admittedly, a listener of the show, which we're fired up about. Played 5 seasons with UNC, now plays for the Chaos. Had a great career with the Tar Heels. We're pumped to have him on. Here's William Perry.
Cook down the alley. William Perry, low to high. The hat trick for Perry.
Will, thanks so much for joining the show.
Yeah, pumped up to be here. Excited to hop on the bandwagon with all you guys here and enjoy the ride. But been loving your stuff and super excited for the combo.
Hell yeah, it might be a bumpy ride, so stay with us. But just want to ask to begin with. I know you're living in New York City with a ton of lacrosse guys over there, so I just want to know what that experience has been like since graduating, how you got over there, what you're doing, and what life's been like.
Yeah, so I've been there for about 3 years now, in and out with a couple of roommates. Last year I was living with some UNC guys, and it's been a fun time. We got about, I'd say probably like 20, 25 UNC guys in and out, but then a couple buddies live with other, college guys, Princeton, Dartmouth, and everything like that.
Yep.
I know you guys know that, but it's been fun. been working in sales since graduation, and then obviously playing some lacrosse as well. But the grind over there has been a good time. I know everybody enjoys it in New York. Everybody also loves to get out of it too. So we have a good time, but it's been fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I know there's in that circle, there's got to be a handful of PLL guys, some chaos players like Will Bowen. I think you might spend some time with. I just want to know what that experience has been like playing in the PLL, living in New York. I mean, certainly was a dream of mine at one point. It's long gone now, but we'd love to hear what the life's been like because it seems fun.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. I mean, obviously has its up and downs, but I bet every single person that, I mean, at least lives in New York or any city that, or anybody that has a job that still plays in the PLL will probably say the same thing, is that it's, pretty similar to that day in the life of what it would be kind of going to school. Obviously a little bit more, a lot more at stake, maybe, if you'd say, but waking up and working out and then going to work, and then trying to find time to get a stick in your hand and everything like that. On the back end, it's just stuff that keeps me a little sane too, living in the city. Right. I'd say obviously can get a little dark. You can find some bars, but not any problems there. But it's been a good time. Obviously, I have a couple good buddies, like you said. Like Bowen lives in the city. Minikis lives in the city. So we get together every so often, get some sticks in our hands, and then find some time in the weekends as well, where we get everybody else involved. So it's been a lot of fun. And managing it and juggling all that, it's been obviously eventful, but I wouldn't change a thing. Being able to live in the city 45 minutes outside of where I'm from and be able to have all my friends in there and, still be able to do it, playing that lacrosse aspect of it. It's pretty special.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So the Chaos is relocating. They're going to a city. You're headed back down to the Carolinas. I've heard so much from Connor, through other people, through you guys, how much fun you guys had playing there. How excited are you to be back down there? Just tell us a bit about that environment in the past, and then also just, how excited you are to go back.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to say, and everybody says that goes down in Chapel Hill and UNC in general, that North Carolina really is like, it sounds cliche, but the southern part of heaven, and it does feel like that sometimes, but whether that's because of, all the fun that we have down there at school or, the memories that we have down there. But I always feel some sort of like pull to try and go back down to campus, whether it be for a game, alumni weekend. But, it's unreal being able to go back down there and to Carolina. Obviously, it'll be a little bit interesting where that ends up. I know this next year we're playing back in that soccer stadium in Charlotte, which was a great venue last year. But trying to just be able to get more involved with the community down there. I think they're going to try and do, some PLL Academy things down in Carolina, whether it's Charlotte, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, or Durham. So just being able to get back down to that community and the weather down there. And, I never have a complaint when I'm down there. So kind of being able to get back down there and, try and perform for the state of Carolina, kind of like it was similar to what it was in college. It is a little full circle for me. Bowen, Cloutier, and Rowlett, so.
Yeah, totally. I guess would be helpful just as a PLL fan, like obviously you guys going back down or being the Carolina Chaos at this point. I think there's a lot of questions in terms of what that really means at this point in time. Obviously you guys will be playing a game down there where you'll be the host team. At least that's my impression of it at the moment. I guess it would be helpful if you have any insight, like, is there any kind of expectation or future looking, I guess, that being your home city? Like, do you see yourself moving down to Charlotte, North Carolina anytime soon? Just be helpful to understand, what the plan is here, if you guys understand it at all.
Yeah. I mean, so I believe, and from what we've been told, is that all this, the cities they're aligning affiliation with the teams. Right. And then we go down there and we played Charlotte that one weekend, but we play that Friday and Sunday. So we're playing 2 games as a host, and everybody will be doing that at their home cities. So like when we go to Philly, the Water Dogs will play that Friday and Sunday. When we're in Carolina, we'll play Friday and Sunday. When we're in Boston, the Cannons will play Friday and Sunday. And what they're doing that for is, from my perspective, is they're trying to grow that team affiliation and try and grow that fan base within the markets. And then from there, I believe it would be like 2 or 3 years down the line, I would, trying to find a nice little apartment up in Charlotte. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
One can hope. One can hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk a bit about growing community. You shared that you're going overseas to Japan to spread lacrosse.
Yep.
Do you want to talk just a bit about that and the background to why that's happening and, what you guys are hoping to achieve?
Yeah, so I believe for the most part, this has been something that the PLL has been doing since after their first year in 2019 or 18, sorry, where they brought 19, where they brought like 13 to 15 guys. And then 13 to 15 girls as well from the AU League as well to go over and coach lacrosse from March 16th to the 22nd within the communities in Japan, from high school all the way down to I think pre-K is what it's going to be over there. So I'm really excited. Last year, I know they had a great time over there. There's a bunch of buddies from the Chaos team as well. Heard a lot of great things just to being able to go and kind of see the lacrosse atmosphere there, because you hear about how kind of crazy it is. And they have all these universities now in Japan that are playing college. And you see all these videos on like Instagram and Twitter of it going crazy. And if you go and look at the YouTube video that the PLO posted from last year when they brought their players over and played the Japan international team. It's a full-size crowd in a stadium that's as big as, like one of the bigger soccer stadiums in the U.S. So it'll be super, super fun, really humble and excited for the opportunity to get over there and, coach some lacrosse. So I'm looking forward to, being able to go make an impact like that.
It's awesome. That's got to be so cool. I mean, I know the video you're talking about too. It's like a full student section of –
Yeah, they're going freaking nuts over there. After a couple of those goals, I forget what it was. There's some viral clip about a couple months ago of like an OT game winner. Yeah. And they got like vuvuzelas and everything going. Yeah. It literally looks like it's like an England soccer match or something like that. Yes. So I'm super, super excited to get over there. Yeah. Bring lacrosse over there as well. Obviously it's already there, but being able to just share and make an impact in any way I can is going to be a lot of fun. And then, besides the lacrosse aspect, being able to go enjoy a country like that. I haven't even been to Europe, so I'm super excited to kind of go and travel as well.
I don't think it's anything like Europe, but it's definitely going to be different.
It's a good point. That's a good point. I need to learn how to use some chopsticks before I go there.
Good luck.
I don't know if they're going to allow me to use those rubber band chopsticks.
Just bring a fork. Just bring your own fork.
Just pack a fork.
Well, it's a game day show, so I got to ask you about the Tar Heels just a little bit here. They kind of have a doubleheader this weekend. They play Friday and Sunday. I guess to their standard, I wouldn't say they performed well last season. Didn't finish the way they wanted to. So it'd be great just for a little bit of insight from you on the outlook for this season. 2 big games against some Ivy League teams this weekend. Would love your take.
Yeah. I think it's been a little bit of a bumpy road the past couple of years in Chapel Hill. Obviously some ups and downs within, the coaching staff, going from Coach Metzbauer, who's the most decorated offensive coordinator in college lacrosse, and then bringing in a guy like Dave Petramala and then John Thompson as well from Air Force. It's new faces in the locker room. It's people taking on new roles. And, I mean, you can see it in the defense already, kind of that grit and toughness that, Coach Kevin Unterstein, implemented, a while back when he came in 2018. And their defense is just still so stout, right? They're backed up by Krieg. And then they got a couple great face-off guys at the X and Tyre, and then I forget the freshman's name, but on that aspect, I think they're looking really good, and they got a bunch of really good D-middies. So the back end of things look really good right now for UNC, and they did last year, to be honest, too. And it just where the production drops off is there's just a little bit of a drop-off in terms of, that midi play, but there's a lot of young guys coming up, and that's the same thing it was last year, and these guys are going to go prove themselves. Guys like, you think, DeMarco, who's pretty flashy, he's pretty quick, Dewey Egan, Ryan Levy, a bunch of guys who have been there for, 2-3 years, who've gone through the grapevine, who have waited their turn. And now I think they're going to have a good year, especially moving forward too. You got like Duffy, and then there's another good freshman named like Mitty Pierce or something like that. I need to I need to watch these games a little bit more because they've only had one televised. So I'm looking forward to seeing it this weekend. I know Princeton will give them a really, really good test. I know their face-off guys pretty good too, so that competition at the X is going to be fun. But I think a lot of it will really come down to how the offense on UNC is able to perform, and if people are able to kind of get away from their man and get the ball movement, because that's when guys like Logan McGovern and James Matten are able to like step into slots, make some moves, and really get the ball moving in the back of the net. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Princeton will be a good task, but to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to be that worried about the outcome of Princeton or Penn, because I think the Ivy League doesn't really attest to the standards of the ACC. So that's a little fun joke that we like to have with each other. So it's been no.
That's probably reciprocated.
Yeah, no, I guarantee you it is. But no, it'll be a good week on lacrosse, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Heels go to battle, and hopefully come out with 2-0. But I'm guaranteeing at least a 1-on-1.
Hell yeah, we're fired up for it, and like you said, like some of the real tests for that, whether or not they're tougher than Ivy League teams. The real test is going to start once the ACC begins, especially with the tournament this year. That's going to be some awesome lacrosse. We're all juiced for it, but this has been awesome, man. We're so glad to have you on the show. Really cool talking to you. Good luck this summer with everything. Enjoy the rest of your vacation you're on right now. Enjoy that blue moon.
I appreciate it. Come on, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. Love what you guys are doing. And I'm looking forward to continuing to listen to you guys. It's been fun.
Thanks so much, Will. Take care, man.
Thanks, Will.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks to Will Perry. Finally, our games of the week, starting with Maryland at Notre Dame. Notre Dame 2-goal favorites in this one Sunday at noon on ESPNU. Great weekend of televised college lacrosse.
Beautiful. It's on Denver Pios All Access, which is great.
Screw them.
Really tough bounce back for Notre Dame here. Really tough coming against an undefeated Maryland squad. One thing I want to point out at the beginning here is a big marquee matchup. Ajax Zapatello on Pat Kavanaugh. That's going to be fun to watch. Last year, Kavanaugh scored the game winner against Maryland in College Park. If you guys remember that, it was a lefty dodge over the top. It was against our boy Brett Makar last year was covering him for the game winner. Great dodge. He knows how to score big goals at big points of the game, but I do think Zapatello can handle this matchup. He has the footwork. He has the strength and the body control. But then again, Pat Kavanaugh knows how to score big-time goals at big moments. So we'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, really good matchup. Kavanaugh took Makar last year to the rack when he scored that game winner. So he won it last year. I think Zapatello is athletic enough to lock him up. But, I'm not too sure. I think, the Kavanaughs just play with this chip on their shoulder, and losing that game to Georgetown, I would love to see what their week of practice looked like this past week. It was probably the most dialed lacrosse practice you've ever seen.
Kavanaugh's probably taking one-on-ones in the dark at like fucking 8 p.m. on a Tuesday.
They didn't end. It's 9:42. I'd be shocked if they didn't have a stick in their hand.
I think Coach Corrigan's out there with a pole, slashing them now as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Notre Dame is they're extremely well led. They have, the Kavanaughs. They have Entenmann, who seems like one of the best captains in the country. They have these other guys who, like Ramsey and some other guys who, like Entenmann's talked about on other podcasts, and talk about how they have just been unbelievable leaders and have been completely devoted to bringing Notre Dame back to championship weekend in May. So I think this week of practice was something special. I think Notre Dame's going to come out at home again. They get a chance to avenge their loss last week, and I'm excited to see how Notre Dame comes back. I think we're going to get a glimpse of what they were last year.
The fun part is Maryland knows this. Maryland knows how motivated they are, how hard they must have practiced all week. It's going to be an awesome game. Also, just watching the broadcast against Georgetown last week, you forget how many guys Notre Dame has. They're going through their second midfield, and these are names we've been hearing for years on their second midfield line. So no shortage of talent in this one, but it's just two well-led teams. Will be an unbelievable contest. Again, this one's Sunday 12 noon, ESPNU. Our next game of the week, Yale at Penn State. The Nittany Lions, 1.5 goal favorites. This one's Saturday at 12, BTN Plus. This is going to be a good game.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the headline here is the two top-tier attackmen for both teams. Penn State has TJ Malone, who was one of the best players in the country last year. He has 16 points through 3 games. I think he could be a little more productive, but I think it's a sign that, they're starting to share the ball a little bit more. But regardless of his stats, he's still one of the most athletic Dodgers that I've seen in a long time, and he gets to the net better than anybody. And then for Yale, Matt Brandau is the real deal. He had 13 points last week against whoever they played, and he is just a scoring machine, and the entire offense runs through him. So it's going to be a matchup of these two guys, obviously on the offensive side of the ball. But I think Penn State needs a win, but Yale looks really, really good this year.
It's funny too, if you were to say this game in week 0 or week 1, you wouldn't think it'd be that great. Penn State coming off a disappointing season opener against Colgate, they get upset. You're like, what's this year looking like for Penn State?
Right.
But they have been red hot since then, and they came off a very, very convincing win over Navy. I believe it was 13-3. And the question really is, can Penn State continue their streak and take themselves all the way back to Memorial Day weekend? We forget this team was in Memorial Day weekend last year. They have the people to do it again. This will be a fun one to watch.
Certainly. Born color game.
Yeah, it really is a born color game.
Yale used to playing in big, beautiful lacrosse facilities. They go to Penn State's facility. Will be a great contest. One of the matchups, just wanted to talk about for a second. Michael Alexander, the defender for Yale, the first team Ivy League selection last year. He's likely going to have TJ Malone in this matchup. You guys have anything on that?
Just another good one where Penn State needs their guy TJ Malone to be producing for them to be, efficient. And Yale's a team that can hold. They have a guy like that, and they have a defense that can hold a team like Penn State to under 10, or they've shown that they can also let up 16 goals. So it's how are they going to play? How is he going to defend TJ Malone? And hopefully they make a lot of saves as well. I mean, I think it could be a dogfight for sure, back and forth, and I'm excited to see how that matchup is and how that game is.
Two strong cultures. And Hopkins goes to Virginia. Virginia, 3.5 goal favorites in this one, Saturday, 1 p.m., ACC Network. Will be a great contest, and I mean, we've all decided as a lacrosse world, Hopkins is back, it seems like. This is obviously beating UNC, a controlling victory last week, a good win for them, but Virginia's a different beast. They're a part of this, it feels like there's really 2 or 3, 4 teams at the very top. Virginia's one of those teams. We'll see how Hopkins stacks up against them.
Yeah, I think, when I think about Hopkins this year, I keep thinking back to that Denver game. And, it was a loss, but it was a close one. But since then, they've beaten Towson, Georgetown, Loyola, and North Carolina, right? Like all top 20 teams. So they're battle-tested. They're a team that can beat this Virginia team. When I watched Virginia play last week against Ohio State, I didn't see the dominance that they've been playing with, or at least that you're used to see them playing with. I don't think it's, saying anything about their season or how good they are, because they're obviously a top 3 team. But, it does show that they're human and that they can come out a little bit slow. And Ohio State's a good team, but, you're used to seeing them beat that team by 12 goals or something like that.
Yeah.
So if Hopkins comes out fired up, which they will, because that's what they do. They're really good at getting up for games, and they always have a good game plan, and they, it's a program that cares about lacrosse, and the players know that, and the coaches know that. So I think Hopkins could win this game. It's going to be a tall task, but if anybody can beat Virginia, I think Hopkins is one of the few teams that can do it.
Big Ten versus ACC. You think Hopkins is coming in with the same mentality that Michigan had, with what they believe that ACC opponents are and what UVA is? I don't think so, but hey, you never know. But very, very large implications.
Yes. Yes. We haven't talked about that, but yes.
Huge. This is a top 10 matchup. This game will be talked about later in the year when we're talking about who's getting at large bids.
Right.
100%. Really good matchup to watch. I've talked about Scott Smith a couple times. That's because Hopkins plays a really good schedule and he has covered a lot of good attackmen. But Scott Smith versus Connor Schellenberger, he has to keep. Sorry, he had 5 points in his outing against Marcus Hudgens in the Ohio State defense. That's another good defense.
Yep. He
is looking like he is on the Warne level already. He's playing excellent. That offense is firing on every cylinder. Johns Hopkins is gonna have to keep Schellenberger under 5 points if they want to win this game. You can't have their best player scoring 5 or more points. It's gonna be hard to win. Your offense would have to be on fire against a good UVA defense. So this is going to be a fun one to watch, man. Scott Smith is a fun player. He is an excellent cover man, and I think he will do well. But again, as we've said week in and week out, you got to be prepared for the picks with UVA. How are they going to play it? We will see. I'm excited to watch, and I hope this is just one of those marquee matchups where it's back and forth, man.
Yeah, this is a true blue blood matchup, right? Like there's only a handful of programs that are true blue bloods. You know, you think about Hopkins, Virginia, Maryland, Syracuse, programs that have had success over decades and decades of lacrosse. This might be our first true blue blood matchup of the year. And what that means is both teams are going to come out. It's going to come down to who plays better on that day, who does the little things, who wins in the specialties. That's going to determine who wins this game, I think.
Totally. And this is one thing I've just noticed as someone who watches the games on TV. You see how Hopkins, when they score a goal, their whole defense goes down and says, "Good job." Can we talk about that for 30 seconds?
Are you a fan of it, or do you dislike it?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know if I have a take on it.
I want to say like screw you guys. Like that's
somebody who isn't on Hopkins.
Yeah. Like screw all that stuff. But then again, I'm like, it's kind of like I hope when Virginia scores on Saturday, they do that, but they won't because I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't either.
I'll come out and say I don't like it.
You know what I will say though? Props to those defensemen, man. That's tiring. I wouldn't want to run all the way up the field and go back. I'm fucking gassed after a stop. So
no, go run to your goalie. Go run to your goalie.
Go to your goalie. Go talk. Go pat your goalie on the head.
Like everyone else does.
Go give your goalie a pat on the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think they do it to make a statement that they're together and they're a team, and there's no disconnect between the offense and defense and all that jargon. But my favorite thing is when a team scores a goal, the offense just gets right on top of guys and they go nuts. You don't have to have the defenseman coming down. Like, come on, give me a break.
Dan.
Yeah.
But I've taken a stand.
I get why they're doing it.
I don't like it.
It's just like you can tell a lot about a team from how they celebrate goals.
Why does it make me cringe a little bit? I don't know.
It kind of seems like this is what we do. We're going to run down there and I don't know. Our producer's saying move it along. Got it. Princeton at UNC. The Tar Heels are 2-goal favorites. This one's at Friday night at 8:00. You can't ask for a better timing for a game here. ACC Network. So it might be on TVs at bars.
Is it ACC Network or ACC Network?
It's
extension?
Network.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So it's
not deal.
Not the extension, but should be a great game. 2 even teams, I'd say.
Extremely even. Like this is not a top 10 matchup by any means, and it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a year ago, a couple of years ago. Both are 2-1. Both have losses to top 10 teams. Big test. Their first big test thus far this year. They're both on the bottom tier of the top 20. Who's going to get a big win here? Who's going to propel themselves towards the playoff, right? These are both teams that have playoff contention ability. UNC needs this one if they want to start building an at-large conversation. And Penn has to think about, things, Princeton. Needs to start thinking about, these things as well. This is a very tough Ivy League at the top.
Yeah, when we say these teams are even, like the personnel that they put on the field is really even. Both teams have experienced goalies in Gian Ficaro for Princeton and Krieg for UNC, both guys who have played there for the last couple of years. It started. And then their offenses are both led by freshmen. Obviously each team has their upperclassmen, Princeton with Coulter Mackesy and UNC with Logan McGovern and a handful of transfers and other guys who have been there for a while. But the big names in this matchup are freshman attackmen. For UNC, it's Don Petromola and Owen Duffy, two freshmen who have been producing at a high level this year. And then for Princeton, it's Kabiri and Colin Burns at attack, two guys who have been, scoring the majority of their points. So, it's experience on the defensive end and inexperience on the offensive end. Both teams are somewhat unproven, and this would be a huge win for either side.
Unproven's completely correct. I mean, Princeton beating Monmouth in Manhattan, then North Carolina beating Fairfield and Mercer, their only wins. So a lot to prove in this game. And then our last game of the week, seem to disagree with what our analysts say. The University of Pennsylvania Quakers at Duke.
Yep. All I will say,
Duke 7-goal favorites Friday, 6 p.m.
is that I do not believe that this will be another Georgetown Notre Dame. Penn, prove me wrong.
I did like the way Penn played against Delaware. Delaware is a very good team. I think they were ranked 14th. Penn came out and kind of punched them in the mouth. And Delaware is a very gritty team. They're a very tough team that's well coached. And, Penn kind of, I don't know what their reputation is, but they came out and they matched up very well against Denver.
They came back in the game.
Yeah, they came back and they willed their way. Like, it wasn't an easy win. It was a great game. And, I like the way Penn played. And it changed my mind a lot about who they are this year, post Sam Hanley
right.
era.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. Post Sam Hanley, who are they? I mean, 7-goal favorites. I don't know. Are we feeding the family with any of these games of the week? It's a big conversation.
It's a big conversation
that we haven't had yet. So maybe we just save it for social.
I do like Yale being underdogs at Penn State. I like
Hopkins being underdog too, honestly.
I don't know. Virginia can just open it up.
Yeah, they're either winning by 20 or it's going to.
Also, Maryland isn't favored, so.
Yeah, what we've learned is you can't bet against Maryland.
Yep.
I'm not betting against Maryland.
Nope.
I might like Maryland in that one.
You have to think that Notre Dame's feeling a little bit of pressure.
Oh yeah,
right now.
Definitely.
Like a little bit of are we as good as we thought we were?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Notre Dame, you're thinking about at large a little bit, but you're also thinking about, how do we win the ACC? And, the big test there is Virginia, who they lost to regular season last year.
Yep.
Now we have the playoff, so that changes a little.
Don't forget about Duke.
Oh, Duke too. Excuse me. But this is going to be a measuring stick for Notre Dame. How good are they? If they lose this game, they lose 2 in a row. Maybe they're not a top 5 team.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not.
Yep.
But if they win this game, they might be number 1 in the country.
Right.
Exciting stuff, man.
Yep. Hey, they're no NJIT, but it should be.
Nobody is.
Should be an exciting one. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Follow us on social, X, Twitter. We'll provide our Feed the Family picks and some more insights. Thrilled for another week of lacrosse. Enjoy the action.
Holden getting underneath. Maltz, great catch by Bernhardt. Score!